Well, now let's talk about products like women's sanitary pads, which are crucial for women's health. In fact, actually, every single woman uses them in her daily life. But have you ever thought about the quality of the pads you use? Let's talk about this now. To explain what makes our pads unique and what their advantages are, let's take a look at the types of pads available on the market today and what they offer us. And along the way, I bought a few more different brands that were available at the pharmacy. This is the company Libres. We'll talk about these pads. The well-established company Naturella and the highly regarded company Duchess. So the pads that were sold in the pharmacy, we will talk about them now and why our Anion Plus pads from the Whieda company are the best and why you should use them. Well, first of all, let's take a look at the packaging itself. As you understand, the very name of the hygiene product already implies a certain level of sterility in its use and certain nuances that must align with the term hygiene. I just opened the package. This package does not close in any of the packs. Where are these packages stored? They are usually kept in the bathroom, where there is a lot of moisture, meaning high humidity, and this is exactly the place where fungi can thrive very well. Fungal infection, fungal spores can easily get into an already open package. When talking about the packaging of the company Whieda, we see that it is hermetically sealed, made of Vova is from St. Petersburg, food foil. I will tell you more about each package in detail. Look, when we take out the pad, we close this package and put it back on the shelf. This means no moisture or fungi can get in. Next, when we take out this kind of pad envelope, we can clearly see how the envelope is packaged. We can see that everything is quite easily accessible and there is no talk of sterility at all. The next packaging, Naturals, is exactly the same. Here it is slightly sealed, a more sterile packaging. And the packaging of the Libres company is also securely sealed. But very often, and many of the pads available on the market look like little envelopes. So what happens? When a woman leading an active lifestyle goes to work or attends to her other tasks and responsibilities during those special days, she puts a pad where? In her bag, of course, in her bag. And what is in a woman's bag? Yes, there's even a joke that a woman's bag has everything except order. And so due to these pockets, everything in the bag ends up in this liner. It could be dust, it could be some microbes that are on keys or other items found in a woman's bag. So talking about hygiene here is quite difficult. If we look at the pad from the company Whieda, not only is the packaging itself hermetically sealed, but the pad itself is completely airtight. It is fully concealed, nothing gets in, and you can safely put it in your bag, carry it around, and retrieve the same sterile product you initially placed in your bag. Now let's look and talk about what pads sold in supermarkets, pharmacies, and all mass markets, which are available to every woman, are made of. What are they made of? These little triangles with the number 4 and the inscription LDPI indicate that these pads, which have the same triangle with the same number 4 and the same inscription as on Libres and Naturella, are made from recycled materials. Here we see such a triangle with the number 4. This indicates that all these pads are made from recycled materials. What is recycled material? This is disposable plastic tableware. These are polyethylene bags. These are plastic bottles. That is, everything that is collected is pressed, produced in a specific manner, and then bleached using special chemicals, carefully and meticulously. In other words, a certain environment is created from which the material for these pads is then manufactured. On one hand, it's definitely good because we are protecting our planet by recycling all this plastic, all this waste, plastic paper, and more cardboard. So we are not polluting the planet, we are doing good for the planet. But is it good for women? What do you think? But I think the answer is obvious. Using pads that have undergone chemical processing, bleaching, and treatment with various chemical reagents is not good, because this is a personal hygiene product. Now let's carefully conduct an interesting experiment and look at the main task of absorption. After all, the primary task that every pad should perform is to ensure dryness and absorbency. Now we will be conducting an experiment and thoroughly test each individual pad to ensure their quality and performance. I was even able to find 2 companies that have a soft top like natural fabric which feels pleasant, at least to the touch, and I must say it is quite impressive and remarkable. Because most pads are these synthetic chemical ones that feel like pure plastic, but I managed to find some with good surfaces that are closer to natural materials. Let's look at the absorbency and do a small experiment in detail. Another very important point I wanted to mention is that this pad doesn't really stick well. It doesn't even cling properly to the surface. All of these pads we've opened and looked at have glue, which is a chemical adhesive containing formaldehyde, and once it gets on women's underwear, it's very hard indeed, entirely difficult to remove completely entirely. The emission as well as evaporation of formaldehyde aren't good for proper hygiene and can be harmful too. Our pad has 4 strips of food-grade glue, which are used in making various desserts, along with chewing gum, ensuring safety. In other words, by using our pad, a woman does not receive unnecessary chemical substances from the adhesive. Thus, we see that it sticks well and securely, just like these 2. For some reason, it doesn't even want to stick. The next thing we're going to check is absorbency. According to statistical data, during their menstrual days, women release between 30 to 50 milliliters of blood throughout the day. Now we're going to test this. I have a 20 milliliter syringe and we're going to test it together. We apply all this liquid completely. Let's thoroughly conduct an experiment with approximately 30 milliliters. This is the minimum that a pad should absorb. There are also 30 milliliters here, which equals about 2 tablespoons or 1 fluid ounce, and is used in cooking or scientific experiments. Look, it doesn't even absorb anymore. You pour it on and it doesn't even want to soak in. The drops are just sitting there. This is, of course, what kind of, I think this is Naturella. This is the Naturella, which even, you see, I can't do anything to deal with this liquid. Now we will try to press it in, if possible, inside, because it doesn't even want to absorb, unfortunately. Let's leave it as it is in this case and draw conclusions. Let's also test our Whieda pad for the purpose of absorbency, and then see the results. Let's not add 30 milliliters, but let's make it 40 milliliters. We'll give a bit more load than on those other pads. Now let's give it just a couple of seconds for the water to be absorbed, and then we'll see how the absorbency works, because the first thing a woman needs is for the pads to absorb well. It's like in that commercial where you sit in a white limousine wearing white pants and everything stays clean. Let's check the first pad, which is from the company Libres. The result speaks for itself, clearly showing the effectiveness of our efforts. Moving on to the next pad, we will continue to build on this success. Checking absorbency to see how well it performs. The result speaks for itself, and efficiency and effectiveness. The Libres pad doesn't want to absorb at all, but here it absorbed a little. The Naturella pad doesn't want to absorb at all, but here it absorbed a tiny bit of water. You see, it doesn't even absorb. Now we will try to press where it has slightly absorbed. Absorbency. What women pay money for. The first task is to provide protection against all kinds of leaks, ensuring absorbency, and the pads from Whieda that are high quality and safely made. We'll even tap on them. And we can see that the pad completely absorbs the moisture and the paper is absolutely dry. The question is, what are we paying for? And before we move on to our demonstration experiment showing how our pads and those of other manufacturers breathe, I would like to talk about what else makes our pad unique. Well, it is, of course, definitely eco-friendly, natural, and safe. It absolutely handles all its absorbency tasks. But our pads also have this special chip. This chip performs 4 functions. It is infused thanks to nanotechnology, and in the weaving of the tourmaline thread, our chip releases negatively charged anions. It is also infused with liquid nanosilver, which has a disinfecting effect. It also has liquid biomagnets that provide good sanitation during the use of this pad, removing all mucus and unnecessary substances from the female body, all thanks to the liquid biomagnets. And they are also infused with yew tree sap. Yew tree sap is a very powerful preventive measure against cancer. And now I want to show you another experiment. Let's see how many anions our pads emit. You saw in the last experiment with the glasses that there are 150 anions per cubic meter in the room. Now let's see how many anions our pads emit. Our device shows that 698 multiplied by 10, 7,000 anions are released by our chip in our anion pads. This indicates that our pads have a pronounced antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effect, which helps address many women's health issues. As I mentioned, such issues include inflammations and candidiasis, various types of erosion. It is also very well used by men for problems with prostatitis, adenoma, and hemorrhoids. Thanks to all these 4 properties that I mentioned, which our chip performs, these pads can be classified not only as hygiene pads, but also as therapeutic pads, which we simply recommend every woman use to prolong her feminine youth, to extend her reproductive functions, so that our children, our daughters, friends, relatives, and close women are healthy and give birth to healthy offspring. Well, now let's move on to the experiment I mentioned earlier that I definitely want to show you. While we are opening our pad, I would like to take a moment to mention that the high-quality pad from Whieda is meticulously designed and consists of a total of 9 protective layers. All these multiple layers offer leak protection and safety, ensuring comprehensive safety and security. All these layers are natural, eco-friendly, and safe. We see the material inside, which is responsible for absorbency, and as we can see, it is still completely dry. While we test how well our pad breathes, we will indeed give this material absolutely another task to see how much more moisture it can absorb. The base of the pad is compressed dense paper, which is very dense but with pores that allow it to breathe. Now we will carefully conduct this experiment by pouring hot water into the transparent glass container. We carefully place the pad in position and gently cover it with another piece of glass, letting it sit undisturbed for a few seconds. As we observe closely, we can already see that the surface of the glass is starting to fog up, indicating the beginning of the process. In the meantime, we will open a pad from another manufacturer and perform the same manipulations. By the way, we can see that there's some kind of cotton inside, which it's unclear how it can absorb anything. And we see that it really doesn't absorb anything. And we see that the base of the pad is cellophane plastic. This is not just any paper, there are no pores. Let's conduct the same experiment. We take 2 cups and pour boiling water. And cover this cup. While it stands, we can clearly observe that this glass, which is indeed on our pad, is entirely fogged up, if you can actually see the streaks. What does this indicate? This clearly shows that the glass is affected, that our pad meets all the stated qualities and characteristics, and it really indeed breathes. We remove this glass and see that it is very completely fogged up. Clean, transparent, just as it was when we placed it on this pad. Now let's conduct the next experiment. Let's see how our anion chip handles restoring the pH balance of the female body. We take a small cup of water. We add a few drops of iodine. We see that the water turns yellow. We place the chip in it. And we see how the water becomes absolutely transparent, white, and crystal clear. This indicates that the anions are performing their function, releasing negatively charged ions, having an antioxidant effect, and restoring the body's pH balance. Now, let's turn our attention to this glass. We see that the water has been completely absorbed by the absorbent gel, and the pad from Whieda fully performs its absorbency function. All the liquid, well, I try